Are you feeling tired all the time? Are you feeling like actually there's so many goals and ambitions that I need to do? I need to make the most of my time and be really productive, but yet I have no energy, and that was me. And in this video today, I'm going to share with you my experimentation, my research, and what I've done to help me boost my energy. Tip number one is to learn to fix my mindset. And if you have not watched my previous video when I share my journey of how I got myself out of the rut by learning and fix my mindset to get me out of that negative constant loop of self-doubt and negative emotion, and trying to implement the positive mindset by believing myself and trusting that my institutions, that whatever the goal and dream that I set for myself, as long as I want it bad enough, I will find a way to make it happen. Since I've changed my mindset, I have so much more energy to keep myself going. Going back to the quote that I've recapped from Man Searching for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. He was a Jewish psychologist, and he was sharing his experience of how he had made the most out of the dark time and overcome his negative experience of being in prison because he was one of the Jewish victims. And the quote that was resonated with me was, "He who had the will to live can bear with almost any." And since then, my energy level had put up. So for me, that is the most important tip that I managed to get my energy back. If you were watching any other videos, they normally save their best tip toward the end to keep the audience going, but I guess I'm just too excited to share it with you guys, and I had all of this energy that I need to make sure that I convey it into my video. The second tip that I have for you to improve your energy level would be to keep an eye on your bowel habit. I know, yes, you might be surprised or you might know about it already, but not all of us actually focus on our bowel habit. Do you know that your bowel is actually the second brain, and it's the pathway that connects your brain with your bowel, gut-brain axis? Going through the phase when I was experienced with brain fogs, I know that my brain could operate in such high performance, and how come all of a sudden I could not think clearly? Every single decision took me a long time, and I was getting easily irritable. Even just a random joke from one of the patients, and I thought he was just having a go at me, and I was feeling a bit irritable. Obviously I didn't act out, but I did feel really nice at that point, and normally I felt like my tolerance wasn't as where it was before. And now I've realized that actually reflecting on it, looking at my journal, and have realized that my bowel habit wasn't that good, and I started having a journal of keeping track of things that I eat and how it had impacted on my bowel movement. And the other thing was reflecting on my experience. When I was working full-time, I have built such a bad habit of holding on toward the urge to need to go to the toilet, because I thought, oh, actually, if I just trying to hold it in so I can carry on checking a little bit, my KPI would improve, and there will be less complaint from patients that they had to wait a long time for their prescription, and I just carry on checking. I just trying to do that for 2 years. I have completely messed up because of that silly habit that I built. Paying attention to bowel habits can actually improve my brain performance and my energy level as well. Tip number 3 that I had to improve your energy level, and I guess it's also linking to my second tip when I had thought about having a food diary. I'm not only trying to eat healthier and having multiple fruits and vegetables into my diet, I also start taking supplements. And I guess as a pharmacist, you always need to give patient recommendation that is evidence-based, and that when we talk about supplement, there's a lot of skepticism about whether supplement is a scam. But actually reflecting on I guess it's the diet that we had here in Western world compared to where I was living in Vietnam, the diet was much more variety. I was eating variety of foods, whatever my mom could get into the market in season at that time. Every single day you go to the market, there will be different fish that they catch, there are different vegetables that a little grandma managed to grow in their garden, or depend on what season it is, there will be different kind of fruits and vegetables. While over here, when I start looking at my food diary, we tend to eat the same food all the time. So we even, at first, I thought it was productivity tips that we managed. When you shop online to get your food delivered to your house, they would save your preference. You can actually just click on repeat your shop then you don't have to browse around and be bombarded with all of the choices. Actually, it also have an impact into our diet because we end up just eating the same food, and that would give us lack of variety into diet. Because again, going back to the basis, when we was hunter-gatherer, we was foraging to hunt for food. We would just eat whatever is available and whatever that we can that day. Having to take supplement will teach you to all of the other nutrients and vitamins that I didn't have before because I did not eat variety of food in my diet. By recognizing that's the case and start taking supplement, it's also helped me to boost my energy level, and I also start introducing other kind of food into my diet, such as having seed, nuts and dark chocolate and fruits that I would normally buy, such as beetroots, such as eggplants, such as purple cabbage, things like that, that are actually really high nutrition dense foods that we should implement in our life. If you are like me, you tend to stick to what you eat and always just eat the same amount of food. So maybe if you don't want to make a drastic change into your life, then maybe start with supplementing those nutrition in your diet by taking multivitamin. That's the first step, and second step, maybe be a bit more adventurous and think of your gut and trying to give us other nutrients that will be beneficial to your energy level. So I started with probiotic and vitamin B complex and magnesium. Through my research, I found out that when we are doing so many hustles and working under amount of stress, we tend to be lack of magnesium. Yeah, since I started taking those supplements and being more adventurous with my diet, my energy level has improved tremendously. In the UK, I guess maybe because we are living through a living cost crisis, it's actually so expensive to buy food that really beneficial to your body. Wonder people would just go for processed food and readily meal because it's so much cheaper and much easier to just be unhealthy. But I could just think of that as I'm investing on my body, I'm investing on my energy, because I can only perform well, I can only be productive if I feed myself, feed my body nice thing, because I don't want to end up like there's no point to living frugally and living cheaply and eating processed food that having a negative impact in our body. We might be able to save a lot of money in eating cheap meal, but we end up dealing with the complication later. For me, the decision is my body is my temple, that I need to feed myself nice thing. Again, using the analogy of a car, Austin would tell me that he feel good that he would give his car the super lead diesel because he knows that he can run the car for longer by protecting the cars. Why don't I just apply the same analogy to my body by feeding my body the machine that I need to value the most, the machine that will get me ready far, by fueling my body nice thing. Tip number 3 that I have for you guys is to stop bombarding your brain with constant stimulation. Those habits that I'm not allowed to use my phone. So when I wake up early, I do not allow to bombard my brain with constant stimulation through notification to the phone. But the other time that I also need to implement that strictly no phone access is the last thing at night time. And I realized that for me I didn't feel like I haven't done enough throughout the day, that I should squeeze the last amount of energy that I have left to study a little bit more. I was still having loads of things on my to-do list that I have not managed to tick off. I was using my phone, I was still bombarded with notification. Actually having that strict no phone access, not only the first thing when I wake up, but also the last thing before I go to bed, allowed my brain to have the downtime. And I should just remind myself the lesson that I've learned from the books that I've recommended before. Deep work, that end of the day ritual that we tell ourselves that I have done everything I could on that day. Let's just write down whatever I haven't done for tomorrow and just enjoy the moment instead of worrying about our to-do list. Tip number 4 that I've got for you guys to help you boost your energy level will be walking. You'd be surprised, walking is actually a meditation that you can give your brain. And just again, go back to the basis. We are hunter-gatherer. We used to walk miles and miles to hunt for our food. The brain had been evolved over thousands and thousands of years. We love walking, and I'm so lucky that I live in a countryside where I can just go for a walk and enjoy the nature reserve. Did you know that first thing in the morning, the sunlight could actually, it's a natural way for your brain to release serotonin. And serotonin is the natural happy chemical that your brain releases. Why not just give us the opportunity to go out there and receiving that dose of happy chemical? And the other interesting that I find from walking is that research has shown that if you walk, you do the same amount of time walking in the city is not as effective as if you walk in a nature reserve. Something that I find it's super interesting, that when we go into nature, we can expand our vision. We can just look at the bigger picture. It making me realize that I'm actually so small, and my problem, whatever problem that I think is so big right now, I think that I'm not going to be able to get out of it. When I zoom out and look in from the nature perspective, my problem is actually so small. Tip number 5 that I've got for you guys will be keeping an eye on your caffeine intake by having a food diary. I realized that I was taking a large amount of caffeine, 1 cup in the morning. Then I had second cup right now when I'm working as a local pharmacist. I feel like I'm not mentally challenged and I get bored of just checking all day long, and I felt like it was the most for me to have a second cup of coffee to make sure that I get through the afternoons of carry on checking all of those boxes. And then by the time I get home, I was giving myself another cup of coffee so that I can keep my eyes open and working on my side hustle, learning a new skill or editing my video. I had no problem of falling asleep at night time because I guess I was born to sleep anyway. But for those people, if you're having a problem of falling asleep, keep an eye on your caffeine intake, because using the pharmacokinetic as a pharmacist, the half-life of caffeine is to 5 to 7 hours. The half-life is the time it takes for half of the medicine to get eliminated out of your system. Having a high amount of caffeine in your body also raises your heart rate, and I feel like reflecting on that, no wonder I couldn't relax, because I was pumped with so much caffeine in my body. Tip number 6 that I've got for you guys will be keeping an eye on your sleep level. I was born to sleep, so I could sleep all day long, but sometimes sleeping too much is also not a solution. When I was feeling tired all the time and lack of energy, I thought I didn't give myself enough. When I reflected on my energy level, I wasn't much more energetic. The reverse side is when I don't sleep enough. When I was telling myself that I need to cut down my sleep, I will sleep when I die. I only had 4,000 weeks in my life, and if I spend half of that time sleep, then how am I going to achieve all of the crazy goals that I set for myself? So I was getting that negative and toxic productivity and just cutting down on my sleep, and it turns out that it also affects my energy level as well. We all have optimum amount of sleep that we need to follow. If you can find for yourself, for me it's 7 to 8 hours a night, and I've built the habit of going to sleep early and waking up early. I do not have to use my alarm clock. My body will just wake up when it's fully charged. Cannot undermine how important your sleep is to your brain performance, because we going through our life bombarded with constant stimulation. The only time that your brain gets to process all of this information is during your sleep. So the only way that we can learn faster is take a step back to move forward. And the final tips that I had for you guys that I have experimented to improve my energy level is to have a cold shower first thing in the morning. I know, cold shower, and I guess I've started doing them in the summer in the UK with the temperatures is around 18, 16, it's lowest. I will need to make sure that I trying to sustain this habit in the winter as well. I started with having just to wash my hair with cold shower and then my body with warm shower, but now I just go straight in, because for me it's the first win that I have for the day, the first win that also helped me releasing the dopamine, another happy chemical in our brain, but also the first win to tell myself that actually I managed to overcome that fear of facing the cold shower. And actually, cold shower is not as bad as what I or my brain were telling me.